Hi everyone, this is David with powderthrough.com, and in this video we're going to go over how to set up your press, including all of the dies and other equipment that you're going to be needing. So the first thing you want to do when you start setting up your press is you want to make sure you have all the equipment necessary in order to do it. So we're going to go over all the different things right here. So the first thing obviously is you want to have your press. For this video I'm going to be using this Lee Precision turret press. The setup is exactly the same for a single stage press. Unfortunately, for a progressive press it's a little bit different, but there are plenty of other resources and videos on YouTube that will allow you to see how to do that. The next thing you're going to want to have is a die set. So in this video we're going to use this Lee Precision 9mm die set, and this is the die set that comes with the factory crimp die. So you can see it has 4 dies in there. And we're going to go over how to set all of these up here in just a minute. You're also going to want to have a set of calipers. I picked these up at Cabela's for about 20 bucks. They work great, and we're going to use that in order to set up our die to give us the correct cartridge overall length. Along with your press, you're also going to have one of these guys, which is a primer feeder. Or actually it's just the primer insertion tool. These come with the press. You're going to want to have the primer feeder itself. This kit actually has 2. It has one, the white one for large primers, and the black one, which we're going to use for small pistol primers. So we'll show you how to set that up in just a minute. And you're also going to want some kind of powder measure. So for this particular setup, I recommend using the Lee Pro Auto Disc powder measure. There are a couple of other ones, but this one has worked really well. We're going to show you how to set this guy up, and it's going to automatically charge our cases for us. In addition to that, in setting that up, you're going to want to have some kind of powder scale. A lot of these Lee kits, they will come with a balance beam scale, and they do work, and they're fairly accurate, but they're extremely annoying to set up, and it's going to slow you down significantly. So I would go ahead and recommend picking up one of these little guys from Frankford Arsenal. They're really cheap. I think I got mine for about 25 bucks on Amazon, and they come with a little pleather carrying pouch and a little tray here for you to measure out your powder. In addition to that, I would recommend getting a crescent wrench so that you can lock down the lock rings on the dies, as well as adjust this little guy here, which we'll get to in just a minute. Besides that, you're going to want to have bullets. We're going to be using some plated extreme bullets that are 115 grain. We just picked these up at a sporting goods store. And we're also going to be using Ramshot Silhouette pistol powder. I have a lot of other different pistol powder loads on the website powderthrough.com, which is where we're going to be finding our load data. And in addition to that, you're going to also want to have a large supply of clean cases. In the previous section of the website, if you've been following the tutorial there, I included how I clean the pistol cases. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into setting out the different dies. So the first die that you want to pull out is this guy right here, and it's very distinct from the other ones. It has this little pin, and this is called a number of different things, from the full-length sizing die to the decapping die, because of this little guy right here. So basically what we're going to do though is just back this lock ring out pretty far here so that we can screw it in all the way. And so remember that we're using a turret press here, but if you have a single stage press, the setup is exactly the same, except you're just going to have one slot, and you're going to have a little bushing there that is going to be where you screw it into. So the other thing you might want to get, and this is up to you, I like using these little medical gloves just because it keeps your hands clean. By the end of it, regardless of how clean your cases are, you're just going to have crap all over your hands. So I like just putting my left hand and leaving my right hand free. And And the first thing we're going to do actually, once we pull out this decapping die, is we're going to get the shell holder here. And this is going to be specific to the caliber that you are reloading. And so are these dies actually. And because I'm right-handed, I like to manipulate the press with my right hand. I'm going to go ahead and stick this guy in here so that it faces to the left, and that's going to allow me to take a shell and stick it in with my left hand very easily. So leave that there for a second. And what we're going to do then is we're going to take the ram and raise it all the way to the top. And then we're going to get this guy and just screw it down. If you want to come in here and just look and see just right in there where it's going to touch the ram. You can see that decapping pin coming through. And once it touches the ram right there, that's where you want it. And you're going to go ahead and just take this lock ring and lock it down. So if you've never set up these dies before, if this is a brand new die set, which for me this is not, I've set them up before, you're going to want to take a crescent wrench, and actually two of them, and you're going to have one here holding this, and you have another one up here, and you want to tighten this nut on the top down fairly tight. If you don't, when you start reloading, you're going to get a primer that's stuck in the case pretty far, or just pretty tightly, and when you go and ram the case in there, this little pin is going to be too loose and it's going to stick out the top, and it won't pop that primer out. And then you're going to have to undo this and tap it back in with a hammer and all sorts of stuff. So before you start, just go ahead and tighten this guy down on the top. I'm going to go ahead and just give just a little snug turn there with the crescent wrench, and then this die is set. You notice if I go ahead and pull that ram down, it's going to go all the way back again. So when you take this case right here and you see that it's got a primer in there, I'm sure if you can focus on that, and we're going to insert it, and we're going to push it in, and right about here you're going to start to feel a little bit of resistance, and just push it down. You notice the primer popped out there, and so what you want to do with this guy is you want to take this right here, and that's going to keep that primer from shooting back at you. It's going to fall in these little cavities, and then you can collect them later. So that's the first step that we want to do, is and how to set up that die. So with the turret press, generally, you can see that the primer is now popped out of there. The turret press, you're going to want to have this little safety primer guy ready to go. And what you're going to do here is, it comes with this little plastic attachment. You'll have to take this bolt out, take this whole kind of top thing off or whatever, and then you'll put this little guy right there, and this just kind of slips in there nice like that. It doesn't fit super great, but what's going to happen is when you take this ram all the way up and that primer pops out, you want to get this guy and you're going to push forward on it, and then you're going to push down like that. You kind of have to use two fingers to kind of move this top part just like that. And you'll notice now that we've got a primer seated in this little primer holder right here. So now when we come on the upstroke, and you have to excuse my reloading bench, it's a little ghetto, but you just want to give it some pressure right there, and that's going to seat that primer in just like that. So now I've got a new primer in there. So the next die that we're going to do here, and I'm just going to take this off so we can see better for a second, is the powder through expanding die. And so with this die, very similar setup. We'll go ahead and take this out for just a second. So with the turret press, you want to make sure that it's on the next stage to the left. These are going to go in order. So you notice that it's going to rotate counterclockwise, so you want to screw this in here like this. So we're going to go ahead and raise the ram all the way up. Screw this guy down until it touches. Once it touches, we're going to back it out one full turn. So right here, I'm just going to look at this spot on the die. I'm going to follow it all the way around. Okay. So what this die is going to do is essentially take this case and it's going to flare out the mouth. So if we were to take one of these bullets here and try and seat it in this case, you can see how it doesn't really fit super well when it wants to fall out. So what this die is going to do is actually let us flare out this case mouth so this bullet will fit in there just nicely. And so the instructions for this die are to back it out 1 full turn, and then to turn it back in a half turn for kind of a full flare, or close to a full turn for a half turn for kind of a half flare, and a full turn for more of a full flare. I like to just go 3/4. It doesn't flare it too much, but it flares it a little bit, so you can get in there without much difficulty. So once you do that, go ahead and just hold it as you turn this lock ring down. And these lock rings have O-rings on them, so they are have a little bit of resistance to them, but go ahead and do that there. And then we get the crescent wrench. Okay. So now, if we put this case in here, and remember, this bullet does not want to sit in there very well. Put this case in there and go up to the top. It'll sit in there just fine. Now remember that the more you flare the case, the shorter case life you're going to have. Generally with pistol cases, this is not a big deal. And when you're dealing with reloading rifle cases, the more you flare it, you're only going to get maybe 2 or 3 reloads out of a case before you start to see the neck cracking or things. Pistol cases, you're probably going to lose this before you have to worry about it. So go ahead and flare away. So the cool thing with this die, and the reason it's called a powder through expanding die, is we just expanded it, but we can also actually put powder through the top of this. So it comes with this little nut thing here on the top, and this is just basically the standard thing that it comes with. It allows you to put a funnel in there if you want to do that. We're going to do something a lot cooler than that, so we're going to go ahead and put that back in there. And this is where we're going to pull out our Pro Auto Disc Measurer. So powder hopper, and this is the mechanism right here that's actually going to let us load it up on the top. So I have on here right now what is basically an expander. Of course I think I do. Yeah. And so what this is going to do, and you got to make sure you have this O-ring here. You see this little guy right here is actually going to get pushed by the case, and it's going to get pushed up. And so if we go ahead and screw this in, you want it screwed in tight, but you want it kind of facing towards the inside here a little bit. And the reason why is when you've got this primer feeder on here and this is rotating, you don't want this apparatus smacking into that. So with this, it's going to just clear it. So when we have a case in here, what's going to happen is this powder hopper is going to be on the top. If you want to come over here, cameraman, and just look and see what happens with this little lever when we actually, so we're going to ram down, and you notice that it's going to push this little thing forward. So what that's going to do is this comes with a set of these discs. I don't know if you can see it very well, but they have different size markings that are the size of the little chamber in here. And they also are labeled. So this one is a C disc, this one's a D. You notice this one we've already used, it's kind of got some markings on there. And this one as well. So this one I was using for 45 and this one is 49. So I've already measured this out, and I know that the .43 size is the size that's going to work for this particular powder and this particular caliber. So you line up the one that you want, and that's going to go in the front here, and then this little slot is what is going to be stuck on this lever. So you're just going to mount this slot to that lever right there, and then what's going to happen is the powder is going to be coming through here and falling into this hole. And then what happens is while this sits stationary, when you put that ram up, it's going to push that forward, and the powder that's in this chamber is going to drop down into the case. and then when you reset it, it's going to load it for the next load, and then you rotate it across. So that's basically how you set it up. So for this one, you're going to have to do a little bit of trial and error to get the correct settings. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this guy to off for a second. And I'm going to put a mounted on here. And it comes with these little locking screws. And you go ahead and screw these guys on there. If I can get it on. Try the other side first. There we go. All right. So now I've got that on there. This thing is turned off. And so what we want to do then is go ahead and take our powder and we're just going to pour it in. And you want to put in a fairly generous amount because you don't want to reload. This one's almost empty anyway, so we'll just empty it out in there. You really don't want to run out of powder while you're reloading, because if you don't catch that, you could be putting bullets in there with no powder in the case and you're going to get a squib load. And that's not good, we don't want that. So this has a lid right here as well that we'll put on. I don't have to put it on, but it has one. And what we're going to do then is just, notice there's nothing in the case here, so nothing there. Put this up here and just ram it in there and bring it back down. So now you can see, oh, and it wouldn't do that time, I had to preload the chamber, and turn it on. So then make sure it's turned on. Okay, now we've got powder in there. So take that out and pour it out there. You can see it's got powder in. So when you're trying to figure out which size disc to use, this is where you're going to have some trial and error. So with this little scale right here, I'll put it down and I'm going to turn it on. And whatever you turn it on as, whatever's on there, it's going to zero to that. So if I put this little guy in here, now it's going to be up there. So I'll press the tare button, and now it's 0 to the weight with the tray there. So go ahead and charge this case again, and it comes out as 5.4. So if we want to look, go ahead and look at the website here. So I'm already on the 9mm section of our load database. I'm going to go ahead and go down and find the Ramshot Silhouette, select 115 grain bullet, and then I'm going to go down to extremes. That's what we're using. And there's only one load. So the minimum charge is 5.5 and the max charge is 6.2. So what that means is we used one that was a little bit too small. So we're going to go ahead then and change this out. And this part gets a little bit tedious. So I'm going to show you just kind of how to go through it really quickly so we can actually just be very comprehensive in how we're going to do this. So what we're going to do then is just turn this off, and then you're going to go ahead and stick this in there again, charge it, pour it out. You got to do this a couple times to kind of empty the chamber. Charge it, pour it out, charge it, pour it out. And if you don't do this, when you take this off, it's going to spill powder everywhere. Charge it, pull it off. Oh, there's just a couple of granules of powder that came out, so I think we're there. Yep, we're good. Okay, so go ahead and we're going to remove this guy now. And just be careful not to tip this over because this lid does not stay on very well. And we were at the 0.43, so what we're going to do then is just go up a size. And since that is the largest size on this particular disc, we're going to go to the next size up, which is on the B disc. Since we're at 0.43, so now we're going to try the 0.46. Line that up here and screw this back on. Okay, and then we're going to remember to turn it back on. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and put that powder back in top, set it back on the scale, and let's just zero it again just to be safe. Go through and let's charge it. Pour it out here, and you see they're at 5.8. If we look right here, that's about the middle of the line, and that's where we want to be. So you can tell that this is not as exactly accurate as you may want to be. You just kind of have to find the one that fits in between the minimum charge of 5.5 and the max charge of 6.2, and that's going to depend completely on the caliber and the powder that you're using. So if you want something that's more accurate, they do have a little attachment that can kind of basically shift over how much this disc is going out. There's other types of powder throws that you can mount on these. There's like an auto drum powder measure. I like the disc because it's really easy to change between calibers, and because I'm just doing this for practice ammo, pistol ammo, I don't really care if it's 0.1 or above or below where I think it should be. As long as it's within the minimum charge, the maximum charge, I'm okay with it. So we're going to go ahead and just do it again just to make sure and verify that everything is working correctly. Put it back on there and it's zeroed out. Charge it again and pour it back on. 5.9, so it's about where we want it. So with that, that's all we have to do to set up this particular die. And now what we're going to go ahead and go on to is the bullet seating die. So I'm going to go ahead and charge this case again and bring it back down. I'm going to set the bullet in here. And what we're going to do then is we're going to get this guy the bullet seating die. And kind of similar to the other ones, I just realized that I may have screwed in this other die a little bit too much, so we're going to back this one out just a smidge. And try a different case, because I think this one got flared a little bit too much. Go ahead and just start the process over again real quick. Pop it out, pop in a new primer. That primer in there. Case, put it down. So I can see because I switched that's going to hit that thing. So I'll take that off for now and I'll fix it later. Okay, so that's a little bit better. Alright, so I've got that in there. What we're going to do now, we're just going to let that sit for a second. And we're going to take this guy, and you want to back that lock ring out. And you also want to take this guy and back it out until you start to see threads on there. We're going to go ahead and go down a little bit, get started, and raise the ram, and then go ahead and, just like the other ones, screw it in until it touches the ram. So it just touches the ram there, and then we're going to back it out 3 full turns. And so what you can do is just, there's little markings on here. It's basically the caliber, so it's 9mm. So I'm going to use those to kind of keep track of how many turns I've done. So 1, 2, 3. So I've got 3 full turns. I'm going to pop that in there, screw this lock ring down. And what that does is basically just kind of set the general distance for the internal mechanism of this die, which is kind of like a little bowl shape that actually hits the bullet and pushes it into the case. So what we're going to do then is, you see how it's backed out all the way. We're going to go ahead and put it in there. We're going to raise it up. And then we're going to screw this guy in until we just feel a little bit of resistance. And you kind of have to go slow. And there's some resistance right there. So we're going to take it out, and what we're going to do then is we're going to bring it in just about a half turn. And this is the part that's also a little bit tedious. You have to keep doing this and kind of adjusting it into some tiny little increments until you get to the correct cartridge overall length. So if we want to go back and look at our data here, we want it to be at 1.130 inches, or very, very close to that if we can get it. So we go ahead and put it in there, and then we're going to check our calipers. Go ahead and get these out, turn them on, and make sure that they're zeroed. Open them up here, and let's just take this bullet, this cartridge, put it in here, and you can see we're at 1.152. So we have a little ways to go still. So go ahead and do a quarter of a turn maybe. Bring it up in there. And just keep checking it. Now we're at 1.137, so we're really close here. So now we're just kind of little micro turns. Raise it up. .134 and just another little micro turn. And if you don't want to be that accurate, if that's good enough for you to be within 5/1000ths of an inch, then by all means go ahead and do it. 1.134, let's give it another little turn there. 1.133. The reason you want to do it in such small increments is with any bullet, once you get it in there, unless you have a bullet puller, if you go too far, you can't really get it back out. So, and look at that, I went too far, 1.1285. So that's close enough for me. I'm just going to back up just a smidge. So the next time it'll probably be about right, but I don't really mind if it's, 2/1000ths of an inch off. That's good enough for me. So with that die is now set. So if you notice here, if you want to look on that, you can see it's got a decent lip there, and that's from the flaring of the case. And we actually probably flared it a lot more than was needed, but it just makes it easier to set that bullet in there. So we've got that bullet sitting in there, and you can see from that angle that there's quite a bit of lip on that. And with this die, you can actually set it so that it crimps while you seat the bullet. I don't like doing that. I like to have the 4 die set and actually just use this guy right here to do it. So with this one, this is the factory crimp die. So just like this last die, we're going to take this top guy out, and we're going to back it out till we start to see threads, back out the lock ring a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and turn this one over, and just like before, go all the way down till it touches. Right there. So it touches, and then we're going to lock down that lock ring. And once you've got all 4 dies in there, this is another reason why you want those crescent wrenches. So you can get in there, because it's a little bit harder with your fingers. So lock that puppy down, and then you want to make sure that this is backed out. If you forget to do that, you're going to end up messing up your cartridge. So we're going to go ahead and put it in there. We're going to raise it up, and you shouldn't really feel any resistance from the top there. You'll feel a little bit, kind of, it's pushing on the sides of the case there. So you want to go ahead and get this and screw it in real slowly, just like the last one, until you feel resistance. And then you'll feel some resistance pulling it down too. And then what you want to do is, if you give it a half a turn, it's going to be a light crimp, and a full turn is going to be a full crimp. So depending on the caliber, it's kind of up to you. So I know with 9mm, because it's a tapered cartridge anyway, I want to do a fairly good crimp on it. So I'm going to do a half turn and then another quarter turn. I'm going to go ahead and raise it in there, pull it back out. And you can tell now that it's not quite as flared as it was before. So I even want to do a little bit more. So I'm going to do another quarter turn here. And there you go. And this is pretty much a finished cartridge. So a good thing to do is to verify that this is actually going to be chambered in your gun. So you can do that one of two ways. There's a special tool you can get, it's a caliber gauge, and if you can drop the cartridge in there and it fits flush, then you're good. You don't have to buy one of those, because if you just take the barrel out of your gun, you can do the exact same thing. So I'm not going to show you with that, but I'm just going to run through just really quickly so you can get an idea of how quick this setup actually is. So we're going to go ahead and set it at the first location here. You're also going to want to have one of these little ammo boxes so you can put your finished cartridges in. So I like to just leave that open. Grab a fresh case here. Again, this is probably going to smack on the powder measure because I don't have it set perfectly right, but so we're going to go ahead and pop it out, pop that in there, prime it, flare and charge, and then we want to have, spill everything everywhere, put the bullet in there, go ahead and seat the bullet, and then you want to crank it and finish cartridge. So you can see that it's really not that hard, and the turret press is quite a bit faster than the single stage press. We're going to be putting the case in, taking it out, putting the case in for every single case that you're doing. So I can generally get 100 of these done in like 25 minutes, and it's really not that big a deal. So that's pretty much all there is to it. If you guys have questions, feel free to comment in the video, or shoot me a line at davidkhanks@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you much.